Emma clutched her keys, the metal cold against her palm. A new city, a new flat, a fresh start. That's all she craved. The building was old, with peeling paint and a musty smell, but her flat was bright, a beacon of hope in the gloom. Her neighbor across the hall, Mr. Langley, was an enigma. Withered and gaunt, he communicated only through scribbled notes. One evening, a note appeared under her door. "Welcome, Emma. I hope you find peace here." The handwriting was shaky, uneven. It was an odd welcome, but harmless, she thought. Days turned into weeks. Emma settled into her new routine, but the feeling of being watched crept in, a shadow lurking at the edge of her vision. Then, the noises began, soft thuds, muffled scrapes coming from Mr. Langley's flat. They started subtly, barely noticeable, like whispers in the night. But they grew louder, more insistent, shattering the fragile peace she had built. Emma tried to ignore them, to convince herself it was just the old building settling. One rainy afternoon, a package arrived for Mr. Langley. It was a plain wooden box, no bigger than a shoebox, with strange symbols etched on its lid. The thuds from apartment 4B intensified, now accompanied by a low, guttural chanting that sent shivers down Emma's spine. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by a constant, gnawing fear. She thought about calling the landlord, about complaining, but what would she say? That her silent neighbor made too much noise? It sounded ridiculous even to her. One day another note appeared beneath her door. "He watches. He's always watching." The message was chilling, a cryptic warning that sent a jolt of fear through her. Who was he talking about? What did he know? Her mind raced, trying to decipher the meaning behind Mr. Langley's cryptic words. Driven by a desperate need for answers, Emma began researching the building's history. She discovered a news clipping, yellowed with time, detailing a missing persons case from decades ago. The missing man, the article claimed, had lived in apartment 4B, Mr. Langley's apartment. The accompanying photograph showcased a smiling young man, his eyes holding an eerie resemblance to the haunted gaze of her elderly neighbor. Tormented by her discovery, Emma resolved to confront Mr. Langley. She knocked on his door, her heart pounding in her chest. Silence. Hesitantly, Emma reached for the box. It was surprisingly light, as if empty. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a single faded photograph. It was the missing man from the news article, his smile frozen in time. But something was different. His eyes, once filled with life, now stared out blankly, two black voids. A cold dread washed over Emma. She needed to leave. As she backed away, her hand brushed against something cold and metallic. She turned to find a small, ornate key resting on the shelf. Instinct took over. She grabbed the key, her heart pounding in her ears. This key, she realized, must unlock the secrets hidden within apartment 4B. With trembling hands, Emma inserted the key into the lock and turned. The door creaked open, revealing a darkened room shrouded in an unnatural stillness. A floorboard creaked behind her. Emma whirled around, her breath catching in her throat. Standing in the doorway, his eyes burning with an unholy light, was Mr. Langley. But something about him had changed. He seemed taller, his gaunt frame filled with a newfound strength. His lips, usually drawn in a thin line, were curled into a grotesque smile, revealing teeth filed to sharp points. He took a step towards her, his voice a raspy whisper that seemed to slither from the shadows. "He's not watching anymore," he hissed, his eyes fixed on Emma with a terrifying intensity. "He's free." Fear, raw and primal, surged through Emma. She stumbled back, her mind reeling. This wasn't Mr. Langley. This was something else, something sinister that had taken root in the old man's soul. She turned to flee, but Mr. Langley was faster. He lunged, his hand shooting out to grab her arm. His grip was vice-like, his fingers digging into her flesh. Emma screamed, a desperate primal cry for help that echoed unanswered through the empty hallway. She struggled against his grip, her mind racing. This couldn't be the end, not like this. With a surge of adrenaline, Emma broke free from his grasp. She stumbled back, her eyes searching frantically for an escape. Her gaze fell upon a heavy iron candlestick resting on a nearby table. Without hesitation, she snatched it up, her knuckles white as she brandished it like a shield. A year later, the apartment stood empty once more. The new tenant, oblivious to its dark history, unpacked boxes, humming a cheerful tune. Life, it seemed, had moved on. But in the dead of night, when the city slept, whispers of the past still echoed through the halls. They say that sometimes, on quiet evenings, if you listen closely, you can still hear the faint scratching of a pen against paper, a silent message from beyond the grave. A message that sends chills down the spine of those who dare to read it. Welcome. I hope you find peace here. The apartment remained unoccupied, a silent testament to the horrors that had unfolded within its walls. Mr. Langley was gone, vanished without a trace. But his presence lingered, a suffocating reminder that some doors are best left unopened, some secrets better left buried.